Today's episode is sponsored by our good friends over at Huckberry. Rolex's new Deepsea is an absolute behemoth of bullion at $52,000 that nobody asked for. Well, at least that's what everyone's saying. Everyone's saying that nobody asked for it. But I don't know that that's true. I think that Rolex might be onto something. So today we're going to be talking about the strategy behind the Deepsea release. I'm wearing a beautiful Tudor, not a Rolex today. This is a great Monte Carlo automatic chronograph with a beautiful exotic dial. It doesn't get much better than this in the Rolex world. And for a fraction of the price of a Daytona, this watch is available in the Theo and Harris watch shop. We'll talk more about this watch a little bit later in the episode. Okay, let's talk about the Deepsea itself and its specifications before we get into, my thoughts on the release. So it's 18 karat yellow gold, priced at $52,100. It's 41 millimeters, and the depth is insane, right? It is tested to up to 3,900 meters, right? And that depth is enabled by its helium escape valve. And on the helium escape valve, that is one of two components on this watch that is not made in solid 18 karat yellow gold, but rather in titanium. It's the helium escape valve, and it's the case back. So now, I guess comes the first question of this conversation. Was there a practical reason? Was there a watchmaking reason behind making the helium escape valve and the case back in titanium as opposed to a matching yellow gold? Or was it to decrease weight? This watch weighs 300 grams, ladies and gentlemen. A Piaget Polo for conversation, a vintage one, I've taken off my Polo and put it on the wrists of many, many people. And everyone always says, oh my God, this is insane. This is so heavy. It's jarring how heavy this watch is, right? And that's about 170 grams. This is nearly double. 300 grams of 18 karat yellow gold. This thing is an absolute brick. So was the choice to make the case back, which I'm sure represents a larger weight than the little helium escape valve, was that decision just to bring down the weight? Certainly not the cost, right? This watch is $52,000 and $57,000 wouldn't have made any difference, right? The people that are going to want it are going to want it. No one that's buying this, I shouldn't say no one. Most of the folks that are buying this aren't stretching. It's just whatever. It's great. I want it. I can't wait to get it. It's 52 grand. It's cheap, right? I mean, in the perspective of a lot of folks, right? This is more expensive than your average day date, more expensive than your average precious metal Daytona, right? This watch is going to go probably to folks that 52 grand doesn't really matter, right? So the 57 wouldn't have mattered either. But maybe it is the weight. Maybe Rolex did test this with a yellow gold case back, and they decided, oh geez, this is actually becoming off-putting, right? This is no longer even funny. This is actually off-putting. The other interesting observation here is we're seeing titanium come back in, right? We saw it with the Yachtmaster, some prototype, Deepsea, and now we're seeing it here with the case back, right? What's the future of titanium at Rolex? Right? And the more they integrate it, even in little nods, right? The more we come to believe naturally that this will be a larger player as a material in their collection, down the road. Maybe we'll see titanium explorers. I don't know, right? I believe that titanium could change almost the future of almost any watch, right? A Rolex Explorer has never been the most difficult to get Rolex, right? I mean, it's not the most desirable. It's no Submariner. I love them, God, but it's no Submariner. But titanium has a chance to change that, and I wonder where it will end up. Okay, here's the next portion of today's conversation. I think there's the interesting point. Everyone's been saying on in the watch world, nobody asked for this watch. Okay, I know what you mean. Nobody in the watch world has asked for the watch, sure, but the watch world is a fairly homogenous place. You could basically draw any watch journalist, right? I mean, within a standard deviation, basically, right? I mean, between the Leica camera and the slight stubble and the little apartment in Brooklyn and, the satchel. I carry a briefcase, by the way, and the kind of, a little bit of pomposity, and a lot of things here, right? I mean, we can tell you their political beliefs. We can tell you a lot about the people that are in the watch world, right? The watch world is a pretty freaking homogenous place, and they all like the same watches. Like, there really aren't a lot of divergent thinkers or tastemakers in the watch space, and the very few that there are have been elevated to idols, and sure, right? They are. John Goldberger is a really good example, and the place that he comes from, the culture, the class, the everything is while certainly complementary to watch journalism, not necessarily congruent, right? He doesn't really fit in, right? I mean, most folks that are in watch journalism, I mean, have a fundamentally dissimilar income and experience, not to mention age and everything. Like all these different variables come into play. So when people say, oh, this is the watch that nobody was asking for, I don't know. I don't think that's true. Okay, so why? Well, one, betting that Rolex got their market research wrong is never really a good bet. So my gut is always to say, okay, maybe we should look a little bit closer. But second, I know a lot of people that this watch was made exactly for. And I think that's in large part because I travel in different circles than most watch journalists, right? Most watch journalists are living in dense metropolitan areas and running in those circles, traveling in those circles, be it, on their daily or be it on vacation, right? I don't live in those places and I am in totally different circles. Those circles, particularly as it pertains to like family social circles, there are a lot of like Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, blue collar millionaires that no matter their size, but they generally do tend to be larger people. I will tell you that. The intelligentsia, we tend to be a bit of a weak force. I got to be honest. But these folks who built their wealth, right, kind of with their hands, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, and even the ones that built it, right, with real estate and not with their hands, those guys are not looking for, your soy lattes. Those guys, they want the big gold $52,000 Rolex. A lot of them don't even want the Platinum Daytona because even that is too conservative. I can't tell you how many times I've heard one of these blue-collar millionaires that just, when I say the only reason I'm saying millionaires is just because not all blue-collar people can afford a $52,000 watch, right? So I'm qualifying it with millionaires just to be clear. I can't tell you how many times I've heard them say, why would you want the Platinum Daytona $75,000 from Rolex if you can get one, or it's $100, meanwhile it looks like stainless steel. And I'm like, well, I actually quite like that watch. I think that's stealth. And they're like, stealth? What is stealth? What am I, a plane? No, I want the big one. And a lot of these guys, they went out and bought Day-Date 41s. Right? When that was a thing, limited run, when that was a thing, right? They bought Yachtmaster 2s, getting to my next point, right? They buy big gold Panerais. They buy the watches that a lot of the watch circle, this, which really tends to be a bit of an echo chamber because that's really what a lot of metropolitan cities tend to be generally, but that is what it is, right? These other folks represent a whole world. A whole huge market. And it's the same thing with all different sorts of products, right? In the watch world, people are very surprised when they find out how large and successful and popular Longines is because they just don't understand that the world is much larger than the circles that we run in. The world is much larger than the Longines Heritage Collection, right? You ask the average watch geek will tell you, Longines should make the Heritage Collection even larger and they should produce more of those watches. That's where the money is. That's what everyone wants. Whereas someone on the business end of Longines will say, well, no, actually, that does represent some of our American market. That's for sure, maybe even some of Western Europe. But generally speaking, those watches do not make up the significant portion of our portfolio in sales. They don't. They may be what we market a lot to you guys because you guys write about it and press is good and publicity helps us. But I can't even imagine how much money Longines or a brand like Tag Heuer is making in the East with watches that we don't even look at. These are major. How many people I've talked to from Asia that tell me how important Longines is as a brand to their culture? That's just not something that we know. I'm not trying to be anything but, someone that's trying to, encourage conversation and kind of, expansive perspective. But, the watch that no one was asking for. No, what you mean is the watch that the average watch geek wasn't looking for. That's true. I'll stand with you for sure, right? But no, I think the Deepsea is absolutely a watch that people are wanting, that a whole lot of people are wanting, okay? Now, what did they do here with the Yachtmaster 2? They basically consolidated this offering that targets and caters to this category that I'm talking about, right? This kind of blue-collar millionaire sort of person. And why did they choose the Deepsea over the Yachtmaster 2? Well, I don't know the answer to that question. That's an interesting question, right? They invested a lot of money into the Yachtmaster 2 and the development of the regatta timer and the ring lock system and everything. I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. And maybe we'll find out in time. I tend to believe that that technology will work its way back into the Rolex collection at some point in the future, although I don't know when. But the consolidation is inherently interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing this watch, right? I'm looking forward to seeing its blue lacquer dial. I'm looking forward to seeing the titanium case out in the wild. That'll be really neat. I haven't seen a Yachtmaster in titanium yet, right? I'm looking forward to seeing it. And frankly, I'm looking forward to shaking the hand of the next guy that I see that's got one of those watches and asking him, right, over a drink or whatever about, telling old war stories, talking about business, because those guys will tell you. Those guys, those guys are they're funnier, they're flashier, they're more charismatic. They're the guys that I grew up with, right? They're the guys that I always kind of looked up to. Tech and investment banking and all those things, all these journals, all these different things. It's not the stuff that I know. I know the $52,000 44 millimeter Deepsea. Not that was my little unit of a family, but that was what we were around. And I'm looking forward to trying on that watch and laughing at the weight, laughing at the 300 grams. I think it's going to be funny. Today's episode is sponsored by our good friends over at Huckberry. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about their Smart Casual Style Guide. It's the ultimate style guide that unblurs the lines between those two words, smart and casual, that no one really knows what that means. So whether you're on the hunt for an office wardrobe refresh or perfect for the weekend wedding look, something that's polished, something that's versatile, something that's, kind of fun, again, be it at a wedding or on a work trip, rehearsal dinner, doesn't matter, stakeholder presentation, this is the guide that you need. This is the guide that makes the guidelines and the options really clear. And summer weddings really are a big one. They're some of the most fun you're going to have all year. It's so beautiful, it's so scenic, it's so everything. And yet the truth is a lot of us don't really have the wardrobe that we need to keep up on those weekends, right? Be it a fresh pair of trousers, a really good knit polo that I just picked up from Huckberry in their Smart Casual Guide, all of these different things, the suits in their entirety. This is what makes us feel, I think, really kind of enjoying the time, right? No one wants to be wearing that same old frumpy, sort of uncomfortable, not confident look, right? You want something fresh, something new, something very, new and confident and strong. And Huckberry has done such a great job at building this collection. Frankly, every time Huckberry builds a collection, they do such a great job. Their travel collection lately was amazing. And this is just another one that I think knocked it out of the park. Again, the sweater polo is phenomenal. They even have a handful of journal articles toward the bottom of the page that help inspire different looks so you can crack that smart casual dress code. So go to Huckberry's Smart Casual Style Guide and tackle the summer in style. Link is down below. Thank you to Huckberry for sponsoring today's episode. You guys know I love you. I couldn't recommend Huckberry anymore, possibly. So go on over. Anyway, real quick about this Tudor. Again, exotic dial. Look at all of the colors that we've got going on here. I love Tudor as a brand. I think that they're great, and I'm rooting for them and all of that. Stuff like this from the 80s, I think is just perfect. I hope that Tudor one day comes back to the beauty of the stuff like this, right? Again, all of the colors, the white, the orange, the black, the matte. Of course, the cases are a little bit thicker than the Rolex, counterparts, the Daytonas, because they had to account for the automatic chronograph. But I think the thickness really actually works on a modern wrist. I think that a lot of people today actually would prefer a Daytona if it were a little bit thicker. Again, rare watch, beautiful watch. This watch is available in the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop. So go take a look. We've got a bunch of stuff from Patek and Cartier and Tudor and Omega and Rolex. So go take a look. Thank you for supporting the Theo and Harris shop, be it on watches or be it on straps. We've got a ton of beautiful straps. And thank you, as always. We're a family business and we're ever appreciative. We'll see you again soon.